Okay, so now I have my query window ready. I want to create a database. And then for creating a database, that's if I do it by, if I just start with two hyphens, that's called the comment. That means it will not, it's not any code. Okay, it's just a comment. So the syntax for creating a database is create. Okay, we are using create command. Okay, we have three commands: create, alter, drop. So create database name. Okay, and then go is nothing but it's a batch separator, or once you run this particular query, SQL Server will know that this query needs to go to database engine and that it needs to be executed. Okay, it's nothing other than that. Okay, so this is the simple syntax for creating a database. Just create database and then database name. So once you have that query, select that query, select those two lines, okay, and then click execute, or the shortcut is F5 button. Okay, so if I click execute, this is the results window. Okay, so whatever you have done here in your query window, you can see the output of those execution. That means the results. Okay, so it says command completed successfully. That means the command is completed successfully. And then if you right click on the databases and then click refresh, you can see the database name. We have given the database name as database name. Okay, so it created with that name. And then if you right click on that and then if you click properties, you can go to files and then you can see all the default properties have been given to this. Okay, so the file groups also, the default properties. Okay, so we did not provide any size of the file or file name, any properties. So this is the just the easy way of creating the database. Now if you want to drop that database, drop database and then provide the database name. So even if you do not provide any go, whatever you have run, whatever you have selected, all that query will be sent at the end. That means let's say you have line 1 go, line 2. Okay, so if you select this particular query, line 1 will be sent to the database engine, it will be executed, it will come back, and then it will send line 2. Okay, so that's how the go works. If you don't have go, and then if you select the same two lines without go, these two lines will be sent at one time. Okay, so if you introduce a go, that means this is as a batch, this is another batch. So this will go first, execute it, and then this will be executed. Okay, so that's the main thing of go. Okay, so even if you don't have, that's fine. But then if you want to separate your statements, then you have to do go. So drop database name and then click execute. So it says command completed successfully, and then refresh your databases. You can see the database has gone. Okay, so that's how you use drop database. So let's actually try to create a database with all the file properties. So let's say create database, and then the database name I want to give it as training, and then on. So that's the syntax. And then what is the database name, the logical name? You want to just provide it as training underscore data or something. Okay, and then the second property you want to give is file name, that is the location, the path where you want to store that MDF file. So I can get that path from here. So I want to store in that particular location, and then the physical file name is training underscore data.mdf. Okay, so that's my second property. And then I want to give the initial size. Let's say initial size is 5 MB. Okay, you can also give 5 GB or 5 MB, okay, or terabyte. Okay, so let's say 5 MB, and then my maximum, or sorry, file growth. Okay, I can give 4 MB, or you can also give 4%. Okay, either of these. Okay, so let's say 4 MB, and then my maximum size is, let's say, 15 MB. Okay, so these are the properties you want to give. Okay, so that's your data file. And then if you want to give the log file, you can just copy the same syntax, and then now your log file name is training_log, and then you want to place the log file in the same location. So let's say training_log.ldf. Okay, and then initial size is 5 MB, file growth, let's do percentage this time, 4%, and then maximum size is 15 MB. Now you have your data file, your log file, all the properties. Okay, and then if you select that particular query, okay, so here one more thing is, if you don't select anything here in this query window, and then if you click execute, all your statements in this particular query window will be executed. So if I just don't select anything, create database, this will be executed, this will be executed, and then this will be executed. Okay, so if you just want to execute only this particular line, just select that and then click execute. Okay, so right now I just want to execute this particular lines. So I have that, and then click execute. It says command completed successfully, and then refresh your databases. You can see the training database has been created with whatever properties you have given. That's say 15 MB, 4 MB, and 4%. Okay, so initial sizes, and then these are the files. Okay, and then if you go to this particular location, you can see these files. So that's how you create a database using all the file properties. And then let's say I want to drop it. So drop database and database name. You have dropped it. Okay, so you do, once you don't have to remember all these syntax. The beautiful thing about SQL Server is Microsoft SQL Server. There's a website in Microsoft SQL Server. All the documentation is provided in. It's called Microsoft MSDN, I guess. Microsoft Books Online. Okay, so where you can find all your syntax and everything. So let's say I want to create a database, and then let's say SQL Server. So you can go to see Transact SQL is nothing but it's SQL. We will see what is Transact SQL exactly. Okay, but then it's just SQL. So if you go here, you can see all your books online for SQL Server 2012. So if you click on this, you can find all the documentation. Okay, or even if you go to, you don't want to dig everything here, right? So even if you just type in as create database SQL Server, and then obviously the first few links will be from Microsoft Books Online. Okay, so you can see all the code from here. Create database, database name, on, primary. This is the exact syntax. This is the full complete syntax of creating a database with all the options. Okay, so whichever option you want to use, you can use it, or you can also see all the details. What is a database name and what are the properties to give that name. So all the documentation you can find it from here, and then you can also see examples at the end. See how to creating a database without specifying file names. Just create database, database name, and then with specifying with file name properties. Okay, so you can see also examples. So whatever you want to learn about SQL Server, you can get all the information from Books Online. So now we created this particular database. Now if did I already drop it? So let's say I dropped it because it does not exist. Okay, it's already dropped. Now if I want to create the same database with two data files, how do I create it? So let's say I'm creating on primary file group. Okay, so that's the initial file. Okay, and then if I want to create the secondary second data file, so just select the same properties and then you separate it by comma. So that means this is your first file, this is your second file, and then you want to give it as training underscore data2. Okay, and then you can also change the physical file name, and then you can also change this MDF to NDF, and then you can keep the same properties or you can change it. So now you have your query. So create database name on primary file group. Even if you don't specify that, that means you are creating on default file group. The default file group is called the primary file group. Okay, or specify primary. So that's your first file separated by comma, and then that's your second file, and then the log on this file. And then if you want to create another log file, you can just copy the same thing again and then separate by comma, and then you can specify the names. And then you want to change properties, you can change it. So that's how your code looks like. So once you select that and then create it, you can see command completed successfully, and then you can also look at the database here. Okay, now if you want to create the first file on primary file group and then second file on another file group. Okay, so I'll try to drop the database, and then that's my primary file group, and then let's say my secondary file group is okay, so that's my secondary file group. And then log files, you cannot have file groups. Okay, so once I select that particular query, it says command completed successfully, and then refresh training databases, and then if you click properties, you can see two file groups, one file on this and one file on this, and then you can also see it here. The first data file is on primary and the second data file is on secondary. Okay, so that's the code for creating the database. So why do we need this coding at all if we can do it from using SQL Server Management Studio? So if you are trying to create a database in development environment, okay, so you can go ahead and using SQL Server Management Studio, using the graphical interface, you can create a database and then you can create it. Okay, but then if you are trying to move that code to test environment or production environment, you need SQL code. Okay, you cannot go to test and then you cannot go to production and then right click and then do all that stuff. Okay, so for that reason you need this SQL coding. So you can write the code, or once you have created the database, you can right click on the database and then you can say script database as create to as a new query window. So a new query window will be created with all the SQL code. See, this is all the, so this SQL server itself is creating the code for you. Okay, so this will have all the database properties exactly, all the defaults and everything, all the commenting. Okay, so you can also use or you can also script whatever you have done. Okay, so these are all other default properties. We will try to talk about them. Okay, so once you have this code, you can just script it out and then send it to the database administrator, and then he will execute that particular code on test environment or production environment, and then your database will be created. Okay, so now we have seen how to create this database.